set up. Student.
Okay, so I will.
Comport yourself.
So today's topic is on careers and jobs. So today we're going to be learning about who do you want to become when you grow up. So I would like to start with the fact that there are thousands types of careers in the world, so there is no chosen specific ones that you have to go to. There are a lot of jobs open for you to take in the future. But I'm going to be talking about 8 main fields. But the first one I'm going to be talking about is on business and financial. So we'll take a look at what kind of jobs has to do with business or money. So let's start with salesperson. So a salesperson is a person whose job is to sell products or services. So you can see on the picture right here. There are the people who sell things. They can be any products or any kind of service. They are the people who buys the products and sells it to other people. So here lists some examples of salespeople. On the top here, we have a car salespeople, people who sell cars, and in the middle, it's insurance salespeople, people who offer insurance. And on the bottom here is a product salespeople. So it can, again, be any products, but on the bottom here, here's a person selling a washing machine, but it literally can be any other type of product that a person can sell. And they are called salespeople. So here are some examples. Um, then we have real estate salespeople. They're also a part of salespeople, but they are professionals who specifically sell houses to other people. So they will help you with listing a home, setting a price, and preparing it for sale for other people. And they also have to schedule open houses and viewings. So I think for by now you might have noticed that this these kind of salespeople job include meeting with people, talking with people, and trying to convince them. So this job is rather for people who are um, more talkative and more social because you need quite a lot of social skills in order to interact with people and kind of convince them to buy your product. So it's like a trait for you to have in order to get this job. Um, but another part in this field are office workers, which is pretty common. They're people who do their job in an office rather than a factory. So big companies have many departments, and there are quite a lot of office workers who work in these companies. Here are just to list a couple. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see there are a lot of departments, and there are more that is not listed here. So office workers are people who work in these companies with varying jobs. So on the picture right here, this person is probably talking about the sale of their product for their company. So they're having a conference with office workers. And on the bottom here is another office worker who is probably talking to another person. And moving on to accountants. So an accountant reviews and analyzes financial records, like having to do with money and keeping track of a company's or individual's income. So accountant's job is really to manage money. So accountants always have to be organized. So again, this has to deal with your trade. If you are an organized person, then you would kind of prefer these jobs where you have to um, keep track of everything and record it. So it's an important trait to keep in mind. So that was accountant having to do with money. And finally, getting into entrepreneurs and businessmen or businesswomen. So there is a difference between the two. Although both establish or run a business, a businessman is an individual who establishes a business with an old idea. So businessmen do not come up with any new products. They are people who establish a business or company with the existing old idea. But entrepreneurs are individuals having a new and exclusive idea to establish something new. So they work to create something new in order to sell their products. So there may be a lot of risk in creating something new, but entrepreneurs are usually people who can think of a lot of good products for us to improve, for our lives to improve. So here's a good comparison. So the difference between entrepreneurs and businessmen. On the left, is an entrepreneur, has unique ideas, it worked to change the world, and has a lot of risks, and it kind of has the property of a thinker. So if you like um, thinking of new ideas, then this might be the right job for you. And of course, they need to invent the product. On the right is a businessman. So he uses the existing ideas in order to kind of create their own company, and they're after the profits, and they're not at as much as a high risk than, let's say, compared to entrepreneurs. And they're the ones to sell the product. Okay, I think this is the last part for the business and financial field, your secretary. So, they are assistants who help an office run smoothly by performing a variety of tasks that support other employees and the public. So, secretary's job is quite a lot in an office. So here is a couple of things like communication, scheduling, and organization. So they need to answer direct phone calls and take messages, handle correspondence. They need to arrange meetings, appointments, and they also need to organize um, documents and office supplies. So you can see how the secretary job requires you to really be organized again, since um, he or she needs to manage a lot of tasks. And yeah, it's like a common theme around this business and financial field. You need to be pretty much organized and have to be um, really corresponding to that situation. So that was secretary. And lastly, I want to talk about the stock market. So quickly, the stock market is another important part of business where people buy a portion of a company and share of a company's gain is given out. So, um, I think you guys may have heard of a stock, but probably haven't seen the graph or haven't seen a person actually buy a stock. So you can see on the graph on the right bottom here, a company basically has its gain and losses. So a company can be really successful at times. You can see it, the graph is increasing. So a company is really successful, but the company can also drop, can be really unsuccessful and kind of drop a lot of their income. So you can see right here. So stock market is where people can buy the company's portion and they'll earn some of the company's income in return. So, a stock market fund manager is actually a person whose primary job is to research and determine the best stocks, then buy and sell them. So, they are the people who look at these sort of stock charts all the time and try to see which ones do they think is going to be increasing in the future so that they can buy the company's portion and earn money that way. So there are you have seen in this business and financial field, there are so many jobs open for you, and these were kind of all the types. And moving on to the second type, which is education. Here's a whole another field of education. So this is just a picture of having your education major, and you can go on to many other jobs regarding education. So you can go on to become um, a high school teacher or a college professor, or you can also become someone like a physical education teacher or education administrator. There are many fields in education where you can become. If you like teaching to other people, then you might consider yourself being a teacher in one of these fields. So again, teachers like you have in your class, they instruct you to what to do, and their primary job is to teach you and make you learn a lot of things. And on the right top here is a librarian. So librarian is also a part of this teaching major. So a person can also be a librarian. So if you like to manage books or teach other people or counsel other people, then this teaching field might be the right job for you. So there are quite a lot open for you in this teaching field. Um, there are not just limited to in-person teaching. So there are also so-called work at home jobs for education. So there are also like online education professor. There can be a writing coach, an online tutor, or a test scorer. There are many other jobs for educators if you're interested in this field. Yeah, that was about education. That's pretty much the whole field. There is not quite a lot to talk about there, but you can see that there are many other open jobs for you in that education field. But now we're going to be diving into the medical field. I heard that some of you guys really want to be a doctor. So if you are interested in that, you might want to pay close attention to this section. So it is about medical. So medical doctors diagnose and treat injuries or other illnesses and address health maintenance. So their job is to identify their patients' injuries or illnesses. Um, and specifically, physicians, they're the ones to examine patients. They meet in person with their patients to diagnose with some sort of injury or illness, and they take medical histories, prescribe medication, and perform other diagnostic tests. Um, this diagnostic tests can also be done by the nurse, but I'm going to be talking about nurses in a bit. Um, they often counsel patients on diet, hygiene, and preventive healthcare. So they are the people who um, meet with people, other patients in person, and their job is to identify their illness, injury, and treat them with appropriate medicine. So there are five common physician types. So you can see here is family physician dealing with every person, and pediatrician dealing with children, and there are internal medicine physicians dealing with your internal, and there are also surgeons. Surgeons are a different part where they perform operations. They're the people who perform different kinds of surgery. So here are just some common types of physician specialists. You can become in any of these fields. You don't have to, there is no strict one doctor. There are quite a lot of um, doctors in this world, and if you're thinking that a doctor is just one type of job, then you're wrong. There are a lot of type of doctors, and there are also even more like specialist doctors. So you can't be um, focused on every part of your body. You might perhaps be interested in a specific part. So, for example, if you are focusing especially on the heart, a person is called cardiologist. And you can see there are many other, like if you're focusing on your eyes, then that person is ophthalmologist. And you can see many other, like for blood is hematologist, and for our brain and neurons, it's called neurologist. So there are a lot of specialist doctors who have their focus on specific part of our body. And here you can see on the left is a probably a surgeon and two nurses. And the surgeon is performing a surgery on the patient. And on the right is another doctor who is, I believe, is kind of taking like diagnostic tests of the patients. So this person is trying to identify the problem that she has. And I have this video here. It's going to be showing you basically how the life as a doctor is like. So I hope you enjoy this. So here is the video.
While many day-to-day ailments can be cured with rest and fluids or a
Yeah, that I hope this video was able to give you some sort of idea of how and what the doctors do, especially in various fields. You can see that um neurologist had this patient attached sort of device on their head, probably trying to attach it to the part of the brain and their nervous system. And you can see that other maybe like sports medicine, they're trying to help cure and restore any sport members back into their shape. And there are a variety of fields you can choose as a doctor. But the video also mentioned that doctors require this like high demanding period, and you guys have to keep in mind that doctor is not really an easy job. It's doctors again have a really extensive work period, and they probably have to stay quite a while in their hospitals until they can go back home. So here was the doctors. But now moving on to a nurse. A nurse's job is to take care for the health of their patients, and they work in a variety of medical institutions, such as hospitals, clinics, and way more. And they usually work in teams with other professionals. So you can think of nurses as people working beside doctors. They are people who especially talk to their patients and see their needs. So they kind of go and ask the patients what they want. And they can also perform basic diagnostic tests. So here is like a daily life as a registered nurse. So you can see this person is checking their heartbeat and their breathing. And you can see that this nurse is bringing the medicine that has been ordered. But observe how this nurse is not diagnosing the people. The job of diagnosing and looking for the results is the job of a doctor. So nurse, on the other hand, they don't prescribe or give out the medicine. They just check on their patients. They are evaluating the different diagnostic tests that they perform, like checking your heartbeat, your breathing, checking your height and weight. So that is a job of a nurse working beside doctors. And here are a couple of pictures of nurses. So on the top left here, she is a nurse and she's taking um like a look at probably her heartbeat or breathing. That is what she is doing. And on the right here is a team of doctors. I mean, team of nurses, sorry. So again, nurses tend to work in sort of teams together, and they work to help accommodate their patients. And on the bottom here is a person, another nurse, probably taking some sort of diagnostic tests for their patients. So nurses are a type of people who talk with their patients and see what their needs are. So they are nurses. And this final picture here, so in the middle here, this person is probably the doctor. So this person, the doctor, is instructing other nurses to do stuff. So these two people on the far right and this person on the far left is probably a nurse. And again, nurses work in teams beside doctors. So they are like doctors' helpers, but they also perform quite a lot of tasks, like keeping track of their patients. Now we're going to be moving on to dentists, and dentists are different from doctors. They diagnose and treat problems with our teeth and gums, and not a part of our essential organs. They are related, they treat like every problem's related to our mouth. So they remove tooth decay and fill cavities and repair fractured teeth. So they are treating our teeth to become more healthier. So here are just two pictures of a dentist. On the left is, and on the right too, taking a look at the patient's mouth and their teeth especially. And this person is probably scraping off the cavities and filling them up. That is the job of a dentist, needs to focus on treating the patient's teeth. Finally, moving on to a pharmacist. There are professionals who specialize in the right way to use, store, or provide medicines, and they distribute the prescribed medication and provide information to patients about the drugs and their use. So pharmacists, they work in pharmacies. So they're the people who kind of keep track of all the medicine and store them properly. So their job is to basically just give out the medicine and to describe it to the patient. So a patient first goes to the doctor. So the patient is getting diagnosed from the doctor and probably determines which kind of illness it is that they're having. And a nurse kind of takes care of them for the rest of the time, if there are any needs. And finally, you would go to a pharmacist. So a pharmacist would provide you with the medication that you need. And again, there are many other medical fields that you can take on, like physical therapists. They help with patients regaining movements. Nutritionists, they help develop eating plans and advise people on how to improve their diet. So it's not just limited to our internal body medical fields. There are many other open, like physical and nutritionists, to keep in mind. Yeah, so that was doctors, and I hope, especially for people who was able to, who wanted to become doctors, were able to learn something out of that field. But we have to, I guess, move on to now engineering and science. And I also heard that a lot of you guys are interested in this engineering field. So I just wanted to clarify what exactly engineering is and what engineers do. So let's take a look. So who is an engineer? So an engineer is a professional who use science and technology to solve problems and develop new products. So they're the people who use our existing knowledge in order to make something out of it. So they design things, they build things, they improve, and they keep in track of their system or processes. And basically, again, they use math and science to analyze the situation and design a really good solution, especially by a product. So they use their knowledge to produce something. So here is a really big kind of map of everything that can be considered as engineering. So there are quite a lot of fields that you guys can choose from if you're interested in engineering. So you can be interested in, you might be thinking of mechanical engineering. Um, if you're interested in those, you can also be interested in civil engineering. You can see there are designing kind of like cities and other railways, buildings, and um, they also have to kind of structure the way how the buildings are going to be standing. And again, there are other science engineering fields like biomedical engineering, chemical engineering, and way more types. But the all common things that they have is that they are creating new sort of product with their knowledge. So they produce and make design something. So here are just four types here. Civil engineering on the top left, here's a person who is designing the buildings and the city. On the bottom left here, here's a chemical engineering, a person who uses chemistry in order to perform and produce new things. And on the top right here, it's mechanical engineering. The person who uses mechanics, like this person is using this machine to produce something that we can use that is effective. And electrical engineering having to do with electricity. Again, all of these types are engineers who produce something with their knowledge. And here are way more, like, for example, biomedical engineering, computer engineering, and aerospace engineering. So again, they are all types of people who produce new things using their previous knowledge. So you can see there are a lot of fields in engineering. So don't say that you just want to become an engineer. You have to know specifically what part of engineering you want to be focused in. If you are interested in this like biology and chemistry field, and probably in sort of developing new medical system, you might be actually interested in going to biomedical engineering. But on the other hand, if you like creating new products regarding like technology, then you might go into other engineering fields like mechanical or electrical. So I actually have this video, and this video kind of shows you what a life as a mechanical engineer is. So this video is specifically about mechanical engineers and what they do.
Communication is an essential part of my job. That's why I use Grammarly, an
So here is the video of a day at work for an mechanical engineer. So if you're interested in mechanical engineer, it's good to keep good attention to this. You can see this person's kind of life and work as a mechanical engineer. So you can see him kind of designing. You saw him on the whiteboard drawing the prototypes, drawing different kinds of designs, and they actually need to build their own designs and create new products. And this person kind of mentioned using the property of like science of physics. So every part of kind of like science and mathematics is used to create new products. So that was the video about mechanical engineering. But now moving on to scientists. So scientists are different from engineers that they perform experiments in order to develop new knowledge. So they don't come up with new solution and problems. products. So they actually come up with a new knowledge in that field. So they work on to expand our knowledge in this field of science. They do not produce new things. If you're interested in building and producing things by using science, then you're talking more about engineering. But if you want to expand your knowledge and make new discoveries about science, then you're thinking about scientists. So here are just a couple examples of scientists. The major ones, of course, are chemists, physicists, and biologists. So you can kind of see from this picture here that there are a lot of different kinds of fields of scientists. I'm not going to go more detail into each one, but you can see that there are many other fields of science that you can study as well. So astronomers, botanists, neuroscientists, and geologists. To take an example, like the astronomers are scientists who study stars and space, here on the right bottom. Botanists are people who study plants. Neuroscientists are people who study our neurons and our brain. And geologists are people who study rocks and our earth in general. So you can see there are many other fields of science that you can study in specifically. But now we have to move on to a career in law. So I also heard that some of you are interested in law. So um, if you want to go in that field, you might want to take a closer attention into this subject. So I'd like to discuss two main jobs that are open for people who are interested in law, and they are lawyer and judge. So a lawyer who's also called attorney, counsel, or counselor, they're all the same words as a lawyer. And they're licensed professionals who advise and represent others. So they are people who kind of speaks for other people in a court. And it's ultimately the judge who interpret the law and to determine how the trial will proceed. They will hear the evidence of their lawyers and they will make the decision depending on this kind of by weighing their evidence. They're the people who judge the situation. So let's say there is a problem, there is a conflict between you and me. Then I would call a lawyer to represent myself, and you guys will call your lawyer to represent you guys. Then we'll have this sort of debate where it's kind of like a clash between kind of like talking to win the argument. So your lawyer's job is to win in this argument and debate, and the judge is the final person to make this sort of decision. So you can see that lawyers require high speaking skills. So if you're really good at talking out loud and kind of not afraid to kind of give out your opinion, then you might want to become a lawyer. Um, here is a type. Here's just a list of types of lawyers. I'm not going to read them all, but you can see that there are a lot of lawyers. It's just not limited to one type of lawyer. There are a lot of types. So here is just a picture of a life as a lawyer. So this person in the middle is a lawyer, and she is currently performing legal research because she needs to know what to say. She needs to research in this field of like other legal things and kind of like all the laws to make sure that she is speaking the right thing. And she also needs to talk with her clients. So a client will usually call the lawyer to pay them, and they will kind of talk about what is happening, what is your problem, then the lawyer can stand up for them. So lawyer is basically on their client's side. And finally, the lawyers will be present in the court where there is a judge. And the lawyer's final job is to persuade the judge that their client did the right thing, or to make sure that their client wins in this debate. So, life as a lawyer, you can see on the top here, she is a judge, is holding the gavel. You might have seen that kind of hitting the gavel means that you are kind of the judge is final on the verdict, so this person has decided. And on the bottom here, you can see this person is a lawyer, and she is speaking in front of a judge. So a lawyer's job really is to convince the judge to make the right decision for their clients. So I have this video here. It's kind of like a video of like a courtroom, and here's like a part of a debate that I want to show you. I'm going to be showing you like a small part so you can see how lawyer works and how the judge works. So here.
Call witnesses. Any inference you make using other reference materials.
You can see this person kind of standing here.
This is a man who loved his job, and after his accident, his goal was to get back to it.
So this person right here is a lawyer, and she is, I believe, standing for her clients, and she's talking in this manner that in order to kind of persuade their judge. So take a look at how she speaks. I'm going to play a small portion.
To work, and he did until the city of
This
wrong.
video
And-
that you can see the way she talks is really clear and really persuasive. So if you want to become a lawyer, you kind of need to have this skill to talk really professionally and persuasively at the same time. So you can observe by the way she talks really fast, quick, and precisely. And you need to be kind of organized person in order to really become the good lawyer. So that was about the field in law. But now moving on to our third to the last category, and it's public servants and officials. So you might be familiar with specific types of public servants, but you might not know what the term actually is. So public servants are people who work for the government and the citizens, and they get paid by the government. So really, they are government workers. So to give you an example, of course, you guys heard of police officers. They keep the country safe by making sure everyone follows the law, and they work for the citizens' lives. So police officers are part of this government officials, this kind of public servants working for their governments. And there are also firefighters, which you've heard of again. Firefighters are trained to control and put out fires, and they must work quickly as a team to keep fires from spreading. They also work for their citizens' lives. So you can see on the bottom right picture, these people are holding a hose of water, and they're spraying on this fire to keep it from spreading. So they're trying to stop the fire right now. So firefighters are, again, public servants who work for the public and the government. And finally, we have also military. They are the armed forces of a country. They support and defend their countries against all enemies, foreign or domestic. So picture on the left here, so group of military people, and they are, again, probably training, because military requires extensive training in order to kind of become the armed forces of the country. And on the right, I believe it's also part of like a training in this kind of life. So military is another part of public servants who work to save their citizens' lives. But you might be thinking, then who are public officials? Then public officials are people who are elected or appointed officials or an employee at a federal, state, or local government. They basically are the people who is directly connected and work for the government. So this kind of includes the president too. A president is a public official. Also the vice president and many other parts of this government field are public officials. And of course, they need to be elected and chosen. So that's why president is a public official if you're interested in going to apply for president. But now we're almost done, which is second to the last field is service industry. So services industry jobs, they provide service for money. So you can be a customer service representative, you can be a hotel or restaurant manager, you can be a wedding planner, you can be a hairstylist or a tour guide or a chef. All these types of job are providing you with service in order to make money. So let's start with chefs. So chefs are, despite what you may think, they are not just making food. The chef's really job is they also need to like create new menus. They need to create new kind of recipes to make foods that serve for their people. And you can see on the picture left, she's kind of organizing and making sure the food is perfectly served for the people eating at the restaurant. And on the right here is more of like a general cook who prepares food. And here is a list of kind of like the chef's duties. So they're not just making foods. Again, they need to develop new menus. They need to supervise or look after the food preparations. They need to lead the kind of kitchen operations, and they really need to control their cost. And really, they have to maintain the food safety standards. They need to keep their food safe and manage their kind of kitchen environments. They also need to create new menus, and you can see how a chef can be a really tough job. But other kind of service providers include hotel managers. They're responsible for the daily operations of a hotel. So they are the people you see probably standing behind the counter of a hotel. And on the right is a person of a customer service representative. They're the first point of contact for any customer who has issue with a product or service. They are also providing service for the people if they have any problems. And here are more service providers like barber, hairstylist, makeup artists. You can see they are all kind of providing a service of cutting and decorating their hair or their skin. And they get paid by doing so. So here are just some examples. And finally, there are two more, but again, it's just not limited to all these. There are way more that you guys can explore. But two last ones are wedding planners who support couples and their families with planning a successful wedding. And on the right here is a tour guide. A tour guide is a person who plans and leads tours, and they provide information and communicate with the visitors. They guide you through the different countries, so they are the tour guide. But finally, the last field that I want to talk about is journalism. I also heard last time I visited that some of you guys are interested in journalism. So if you're interested, it's good to keep your focus here on this field. So first, I'm going to be talking about just journalists in general. Journalists are professionals who work to provide the public with accurate and timely information. So they're responsible for finding out, investigating, reporting and collecting informations for people to know. So they are people who kind of collect the recent news and provide it to the other people. So they work to write down their journals and kind of provide public people with what is going on in this world. So let's say like a robbery happened at a certain place. A journalist, usually within an hour, starts to write about that scene so that people can know about that place and the robbery that happened there. So a journalist's job really is to collect information from around the world, and they write down what is important and share it to the public people so that they will have an understanding of what is going on in this world. So they're people who write down and investigate and talk about it. But more specifically about reporters, so reporters are called broadcast journalism. They're reporters who like work in the news industry for the most of the times, and they're responsible for going out and gathering information, data, and facts about public with information. So they are the people who actually go out to places to talk about the news. So you can see on the pictures here, these two people are standing in front of a scene, and this scene is actually where the event happened. So they are people who go to these places and sharing live to other people in public. Again, they work in multiple news industry. So their job is to work in these kind of like news field. And they are people who they're still part of journalism where they provide public people with information. So I have this video here. It's kind of like a really good reporter who is speaking.
If you
about
ever tried asking questions to ChatGPT for research,
So here's a 1 minute and 30-second video of what a journalist and reporters specifically do. So
on television and in print, journalists uncover facts to
yeah, I hope you were able to kind of learn something about reporters specifically in this journalism field. So again, their job is to go into these places and talk with public people in live. So you have to have good talking and speaking skills in order to become a reporter. And that was all the jobs that I wanted to cover for now, but I actually want to ask you a question of who you want to be when you grow up, since we have discussed a lot of different jobs in different fields. So I'm kind of interested in what jobs you want to take when you grow up.
Asking that you guys, after all that he has said, what job do you want to undertake when you grow up? We want to hear from you. Huh? Soldier, so military woman and military man. What else? Firefighter. So say it to me. JB, are you hearing?
Yes, I can kind of hear them. Yeah. Okay. So I heard that maybe some of you guys are interested in surgeon. I heard surgeon. And I also heard like firefighters. And I also heard like maybe like pilots. So here are like different kind of pathways that you can take. So here's where you can pay attention because I'm going to be describing how you can become get the career that you want. So a lot of jobs require probably at least a bachelor's degree, but there are other kind of alternatives. So you can see there are different steps for you to become better. So first, you guys already have completed elementary or primary school. You guys are done with that. But you guys are currently in junior high school. So this is you right here. You're in this junior high school step.
It's
Um,
probably your journey for you to watch
then
what becomes that you mind.
your next step is to go to senior high school. So I heard that you guys need to take some sort of exam in order to get into senior high school. So your next step is to probably prepare for the senior high school exam, because after high school, you can go on to a lot of different places. So if you want really the job that you want to become, then you have to probably go into senior high school and continue your education. So from senior high school, there are a lot of places that you can go to. The most common place is a college. So after high school, you can go to college. But if you want to be other jobs like pilot, chef, firefighters, then there are alternative schools that you can go after senior high school. So there are other flight schools that are offered. So I'm not sure of any flight schools in Ghana, but if you can search it up, there are probably are flight schools in Ghana too, and there are a lot of flight schools around the world if you're interested in becoming a pilot. So you have to go through senior high school and then work your way up towards the flight school. But if you want to be like a chef or other kind of designer, then you would actually be wanting to go into culinary arts. So these are kind of different schools that you want to go to if you want jobs like a pilot, chef, and other kinds. But if you decide to move on to college, there are other steps that you can take. So this is for the people who wanted to become a surgeon or an engineer. So if you want to become a doctor, any field of doctor or engineer, or if you also want to become a lawyer, you need to take your step up into college. And after you complete college, you will earn a bachelor's degree. So this is kind of like an accomplishment. I put a star here because you kind of get a star once you complete college. And many jobs will look for the star, and probably it's good to go to college and get this achievements because a lot of jobs require a bachelor's degree. But if you want to go further, then you can go to graduate school. So in this graduate schools, there are mostly people who want to become lawyers or doctors. If for the person who said want to be a surgeon, then you have to go to grad school. In graduate school, you will earn a master's degree and a PhD. So these are like two stars that you can earn from a graduate school. And these two kind of require different number of years after college. But finally, if you want to become a medical doctor, especially if you're interested in becoming a doctor, then you have to take another step towards intern and residency. So this is the final step for you to become a doctor or any type of doctor like a surgeon or a physician. In this final intern and residency stage, then you'll earn a medical doctor title. So this is the title that you earn when you finally become a doctor. So you can see that these are like a step for you to take. You're currently in this junior high school phase. What is your next job? Well, your next job is to go into senior high school. So always work hard to get into senior high school. And finally, I want to talk about that you can always do it. Remember that you have the capability to do it and move on. And you can be successful by keeping in mind what we learned last week about goals and passion and stepping out of your comfort zone. All of those things were talked about last week. And if you kind of follow that, then you will really be able to be successful and move on with your dream career. And again, always follow your dreams and do what your passion tells you. So, here, if you want to be a medical doctor, it's all the way up here. But always remember that you can do this, you can take the steps by setting up goals and by kind of convincing yourself that you really want to become a doctor. Then you will slowly take your step up to this medical doctor field. So, yeah, always remember that you can do it and be persistent about it, and you can be successful. So that is the end of today's slides. So do you have any questions regarding any of the jobs that I mentioned? Do you have any questions right now?
Related to what he has taught, the job that he has mentioned, you don't understand any of them, you can ask him. I was serious. You understand what? Ask questions. So whichever one you don't understand, just ask him to explain it. If you are paying attention, you have questions to ask.
Because I did not cover every job. Maybe there was a job that you wanted to become that I didn't talk about. So you can ask a question about like, how do you become this? How do you become this? You can ask me any question. But if you don't have it, it's also fine.
If you have any job that hasn't mentioned, but you want to become that person in the future, you can then what ask. Maybe some job that he hasn't talked about. What? What? Speak out and let's hear you. Yes. Footballers will tell you. Tell me.
Yes.
One is talking about footballers. So they want to become footballers. I don't know how them. Maybe one of you who want to become a footballer.
Oh, I see that a lot of you want to become footballers. So, sports, were kind of similar along like all the other careers. So, I think sports you really want to get into college because colleges have sports teams. So you can compete in those sports team and you can actually make money by competing in those. So you're kind of, I guess if you want to become a footballer, then your first kind of requirement is go to college. And many people, if you want to go to like pro league, for example, if you want to go to um, England, for example, to compete in the pro field, then you might want to be like recruited by other people. But usually these recruiters often visit like colleges. So I guess your first job in order to become footballers or be successful in that field is to maybe get into college. So, or if you don't get into colleges, it's also fine because there are other recruiters that may be kind of moving around in your area. So even if you don't decide to go to college, you can also be recruited by other people. So that's how you would go to like this pro field. But usually you can earn quite a lot of money by competing in college sports too. So So, are there any more questions? I think, um, I think I answered. I hope I answered your question about like sports. Especially you would want to have a recruiter kind of choosing you to become um to move on to the next step if you're interested in football. Um, you need to have someone who recognize your skills, and those people will kind of advertise for you to other like pro teams so that you can join it. Um, but again, there are many options available for you, even if you don't decide to go to college. So, are there any other questions about this job in general?
Another question.
Okay, so yeah, have any questions, then next week, we're going to be talking about like global issues. Oh, actually, we're going to be talking about famous people first. 좀 cut out there. So, yeah, next week we're going to be talking about famous people. You can stay tuned for that. And if you don't have any questions, then I'll see all of you next week. Yeah. Bye.